Hi, a very warm welcome to Dusty Shelf, and yeah, I hope I find you all well. Well, today we're talking Marklin. So Marklin Digital, which is a three-rail modelling system. Some of you may be aware of it from Germany, obviously, and it's something I've not really looked into before. I've not explored it at all. And recently, my cousin-in-law has entrusted me with his late father's project, which was a Marklin three-rail digital layout. So I went and picked it up the other weekend, a couple of trains in there, beautiful layout, but having read through and looked at the sort of digital system, it is a little bit different to what I'm kind of used to. Now, I'm sure a lot of the viewers out there will be familiar with the Marklin three-rail digital, and certainly if you're in mainland Europe, you will be familiar with it. But here in the UK, it's not so common. In fact, I've probably only seen it in one railway shop, which is Inline Models in Blackpool, in Cleveley's in Blackpool. They stocked a Marklin, but otherwise I've not really seen it for sale anywhere in the UK, and I don't believe it's very commonly run, so it's all new to me anyway. So I thought I'd do this video as a sort of walkthrough of this era of Marklin Digital, which is probably about 20 years ago. It's not the most modern stuff, and just talk through all the different components that come together, and then show you around the layout, and then talk about the plans for the layout. So starting with the book here, this one has been very helpful. Taught me all about how things are connected together, which, you know, has been absolutely invaluable. But moving on from there, let's talk about the track. So the track itself is slightly different to what you'd be used to, in the fact that it looks like a conventional sort of, I guess, Hornby or Pico track. But if you can see, there's these little ridges just running down the middle. If I just bring that up to the camera, just running down the middle of the track, these tiny little upstands. And these are the third rail, effectively. So on here, if we go towards the end, you can see there's multiple pickups. We've got a metal plate running underneath, which are the two inside pickups, and then we've got a left-hand rail and a right-hand rail. And then on the engine, to pick up on the centre rail, all of the engines are fitted with this long sort of running plate. Now when they're on the track, obviously that little running plate becomes kind of invisible, but makes a very firm connection with the centre rail. So unlike the Hornby 00 three-rail track, where you'd have the third rail running down the middle, as I say, this just has these little upstands sort of poking through the plastic sleepers, making the contact. Right, so bringing in some other track, I initially started out trying to solder some wires onto these rails. Soon found out that these are, I think they're probably stainless steel, because I couldn't get the solder to take on those. Luckily in the box of bits, I did find a connection piece which allowed me to connect the wires into the track. So I'm just going to slide this on here, and again making sure all four of the connections connect across onto the other piece of track here. So I'm just using this as a little bit of test track at the moment. Right, so get started on this, let's bring in the transformer. It's a rather large unit here, and you can see on the back there's a couple of wires, just well, there's two sets of connections here with the brown and yellow and brown and yellow. So there's two sets of wires that you can take off of there for power. I'll just put that to one side. And then to actually talk to the track, you need a control unit, which is this box here. So this is wired up. We've just got power coming across from the transformer. You can see the two wires here into the central unit here, and then from the central unit running down into the track. I've made a connection here. I'll come to that in a minute, so I can demonstrate the points on the system. Right, so now we've wired in the control unit. We bring in the controller itself, which is this unit here, and on the side there's just a simple plug where you can plug the two together, or indeed if you want them separated, there's a little connection lead here where you can plug one side in here and obviously pick up on there if you want the two separated. For the purposes of this demonstration, I'm just going to push them together like so. Now, one of the things I did find to start with is I set this up, put them in a little train on the track, little test train here, put it on the track, turn the power on, nothing happened. I found that when you connect these together, you actually have to switch the entire system off and then sort of do a reboot on it. So you have to switch it on with it connected together, and that goes the same with the points modules. If you just connect them in, they won't work. You've got to switch it all off and sort of reboot the system. So let's just do that now. I'll just turn that on. And this loco is programmed to number 30. So I just put in 30. And here we can see just a very small movement of the loco. And then to reverse, you overturn the speed control. I'll just do that again, and hopefully the click's picking up, and you go back the other way. got some functions in here, just turns the lights on and off in these locos, nothing too unfamiliar. Now I'm just going to bring in another loco to talk about programming. Now, giving the locos their address, this took me a little while to have a look at this and work this out. If I just show you on the pretender of this loco, you can see the little micro switches here. Well, switching these on and off to different orientations actually gives you the loco address. So on my little crib sheet here, if we're looking for address number 1, we need switch 2, 3, 5 and 7 switched on. Switch all of these to 2, 3, 5 and 7, leave the other ones off, and basically that's it, allocated the address of number 1. Very, very simple, very, very effective. So I've had to go through with the locos. There's 4 locos actually came with the set. 2 of them worked straight out of the box and I had the codes for them. The other 2 I've had to reprogram, but again, you can see how simple it is. Dead easy, and off you go. Again, this loco, 3 rail, you can see the pickup on the base there. I will go through the locos in more detail on another video, because I do want to sort of give them all a good clean and a little bit of a service, but we'll do that on a separate video at another time. Right, so to operate points and accessories, there's 2 decoders. So do keep in mind this is a 20-year-old system. So I think the modern Marklin system is very, very similar, but it does seem to have a more elaborate keypad. And these, I think, are slightly different numbers and slightly different boxes, but still, I think the function's basically the same. So back then, you had a K83 and a K84. The K83 was for an intermittent signal, such as switching points. So you'd pass a positive one way and a positive back the other way and have a neutral sitting position. And then on the K84, this is for things like lights. It's purely an on and off switch. And then the boxes themselves are quite simple. You've got your wires coming from the track, so your 2 power wires straight off the track, again functioned by the control unit. And then quite simple, you've got 4 sets of switches on either decoder. I'm just going to bring in the K83 here because I've got this one wired up. And the K83, you can see, whereas on the K84 you've got an on and off switch, the K83 has your sort of direction switch, so left point, right point, for example, and a neutral seating position. The points themselves, really quite elaborate, again with the pickup in the middle of the track, and you've got this nice little solenoid with quite a smooth function in manual, and seems to work really well in digital. I'll just move the K84 out of the way. Right, let's just focus in on the K83. So inside here, again, there's a bank of 8 switches, micro switches, and in the instruction book is a set of addresses. And I'm just going to bring in the keyboard. So the keyboard itself has a whole row of on-off switches on there. So basically, you look up keyboard 1, buttons 1, 2, 3, and 4, and you basically set the switch in this to do the 4 functions for buttons 1, 2, and 3, and 4. Simple as that. Really, really easy to program. And I'll just demonstrate that. Just put the points here. Right, so I've got my 2 open wires here that you can see. I'm just going to bring the keyboard across, and I'm going to plug that in exactly the same as before into the control unit, like so. Bring these 2 wires across. I'm just going to make them a little bit thinner so they will go into the holes in the decoder. Plug these into the decoder. Red to red, black to brown, like so. Now when I push the buttons, this is actually programmed to number 4. You can see the point switching, nice and easy, job done. I mean, really, really robust system, and quite looking forward to programming this into the layout. So unfortunately, I've only got one of these decoders, so I'm on the lookout for some more. I'd like to have the whole system wired onto this keypad, and obviously have a little schematic over which points are working from here. But actually, I mean, it's taken me a little bit of reading and scratching my head to get this all to work. But now it's all together, it's quite straightforward, and yeah, very, very effective. So with that, I'm going to leave this here. I'm going to take you out. I've actually got the board outside in the garden at the moment. Take you out to the garden, and I want to show you what's on the board and show you what we found so far, and talk about the plans for the layout. So this is the layout. It's one of 3 boards. There's a lower board, this is the middle one, there's a lower board, there's also an upper board that sits on top. Made to an extremely high standard. I mean, you can see the way that the cutouts are finished. And I do like this area in the top corner here. I'm just going to point my finger where there's a little pocket being put in for the controllers. Every layout I've built, I always forget the controllers and you end up sort of perching them on a table next to the board, but this has all been well thought out. And yeah, you can see there's a pocket there. There's also one at this end, just in the corner there. And the roadway here, you can see there's a little wire running through, so it's set up for the Fowler roadway cars. And I'll show you around the other side in a minute because there are some solenoids on there. So as I say, there's a board that sits over the top of this and basically covers the rear portion of the board. So this front bit is all exposed. There's a board that covers the top. There's also one that goes underneath with a ramp going down to a lower level. So quite an elaborate setup. Again, all of the tracks, they're all 3-rail, and you see the points here. There's a couple of sets of points with some sort of looks like a light on there that rotates when the points move. I haven't put power through it yet, so I'm not totally sure. And these look like sort of re-railers or whatever. But one of the things I have noticed, I can pick an area, let me see if I can see one, is the track is all broken into blocks. You can see here, if I just zoom in here, you see the way the track is cut. And when I go around the other side, you'll see the dilemma that I'm having at the moment on how far, on what to do with this. Let's go around there and I can explain. So on the other side of the layout, there are wires going absolutely everywhere, and as well as plugs to be plugged in, and different other bits and pieces on here. There are wires absolutely going everywhere. They run all across to different sections of track, obviously run to each of the points, and you can see down here there's more wires running through. And I think basically this was set up as a block system. So as I showed, the tracks have been cut into blocks, and we've got sets of sort of wires going to those different blocks for some sort of sensing. And these all sort of come back to this sockets either end. You see here this socket, which we have no idea what plugs into them or how it plugged together. So having spent many an evening out here staring at it, I'm not totally sure where to start. Obviously there's a block system here. As I say, some sort of block system. I'll just bring you over onto the table here. And this was mounted underneath, which is some sort of homemade control board. Now, rudimentary electronics, we've managed to work out that these at the top here are sort of a logic gate that shows when a train is in each particular block. So you see it's repeated for a number of blocks. Now, the first thing I noticed when I took the lid off of this, there's a smell of burning. So something's burnt out in here. I've also got the problem of I don't actually know what it was aiming to do. So I've got the problem not knowing what it was trying to do, what it actually did, how to actually wire it together, what is burnt out in here. Obviously the wires aren't too much of a problem because I can trace those back to where they, where they're going and everything, and sort of work out where they need to go. But I don't actually know what the function of all this was. So I'm kind of inclined, I'm sitting on the fence at the moment, deciding whether I spend a lot of time and invest in trying to get this all working, as I say, not knowing what it was intended to do, or I've kind of cut my losses, go with a full digital system, sort of link the track back together by soldering these wires and closing out all the blocks, going fully digital, because then I've got control over all the trains anyway, and I can stop them in different blocks if so I please. It's just under my control rather than be sort of automated. And then concentrate on the sort of Fowler road system. And I did mention the, I'm just going to zoom in there, you can see the little electromagnet that's been mounted in the board. There's several of those on the different levels for the cars that would follow the little track round on the Fowler road system. So anyway, it's going to be quite a fun project. I'm quite looking forward to doing this one, and certainly the quality of the Marklin equipment really does show through. I'm just surprised nobody runs with this in the UK. So the locos are obviously German or Austrian outline, but very, very high quality models, die-cast bodies on a couple of them, and high traction wheels. And as I say, once I decide what I'm actually going to do with this, well, I'm just going to crack on and get it running and not focus on the electronics. It's going to be a really nice layout to work on. Anyway, I thought that might be of interest. As I say, Marklin is all new to me, so I'm sure some of this people are fully aware of it. Some of you are probably running with it, but for me this is all new. And if it's new to other people, then at least I've showed you something that's a little bit different. Anyway, I'm going to leave that one there. If you enjoyed the video, as always, please do give it a thumbs up, and why not check out the channel? There's lots on there, and I'll be doing a few more videos on Marklin as I get further into this project and as I learn a bit more. And with that, I'm going to leave this one there. Thank you ever so much for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.